Today, we're excited to bring to you Casey Ryerson, who is an amazing franchisee with the Owl Be There brand. And of course, she's a member of Secret Sauce as well. Welcome, Casey. We're excited to have you on the show.
I'm very happy to be here.
Let's talk a little bit about your background because you are a lifelong learner and have had many illustrious careers before becoming a franchisee. So, what did that journey look like for you before taking the leap into franchise ownership?
It's what I would call creative curiosity. I always have a thirst for trying to find the truth.
And what are some of the different things that you did along that journey?
I have been to what I call automobile university, where I listen to books on tape. I've been to regular university where I have a bachelor's degree, I have an MBA, and my DHA is ongoing. It's what's called ABD. I finished all the classes, but I haven't quite finished my dissertation.
And you've had a lot of careers in sales, and tell us a little bit about your career journey.
I actually started in sales. You guys are going to laugh at this. 5 years old, growing up in Bethesda, Maryland. I left my parents' house with a wagon full of rocks, and I came back with $5.
That doesn't surprise me in the slightest.
Yeah, but seriously, I have been involved with different franchises and direct sales businesses from the beginning. My parents were in MLM back then. And then I found my feeding in relationship sales, believe it or not, with a MLM company that sold baskets. Did very well with that, which brought me onto the banking world. So that's where I got my finance education. And then from the finance education, now I'm in senior services. So it's a very well-rounded education that I can help families with.
Find, that a lot of us who are entrepreneur minded, we don't have a straight path. It's not that we started a career in fitness and then that grew to a career in owning a fitness franchise. And then that grew to a career into becoming a fitness franchisor. That's not typically our story. Our story is, well, we did this and we gained a set of skills. And then we jumped way over here in the other side of the pendulum and gained a bunch of skills. And then when you get to a certain point in your career and you look back at all of what seemed to be random pieces of maybe not even a puzzle, just like random puzzle pieces that who knows if they actually go to the same puzzle, we look back and we suddenly see maybe that was God's path all along, because without those different skill sets, we couldn't be accomplishing what we're accomplishing today. Do you find that to be true?
Very much so. I actually did have a career in fitness in my 20s. I was an aerobics instructor and personal trainer. And on a side note, probably back in 2008 till about 2013, believe it or not, I built a house. So that's for another conversation.
You built a house like with your own two hands?
Yes, me and my partner, we bought a house for $40,000 cash on the side of the mountain and realized that we need to remodel and rebuild the whole thing. And it's amazing. We did it with our own hands.
My gosh, I definitely want to hear about that story at some point and see some pictures on that one. All right. So all of that has led you to where you are today, which is in senior services with a brand called Owl Be There. An owl, which I wasn't quite sure when I had first just heard it, but then when you see it, oh my gosh, your logo mascot is just the cutest. It's an actual owl. And your franchise territory is where?
I own the Frederick County, Maryland and Loudoun County, Virginia territory. So
All
DMV.
right. DMB. I'm going to be there next week.
Please, we'll have to go
Yeah.
out for coffee.
Yeah, that would be great. So, all right. So that's your territory. Now, what is it that brought you to senior services placement? I mean, I think a lot of people out there don't even know that senior services placement is a thing.
Yeah, I hate to say this. It's not a cliche story, but it ends up with a good ending. I literally was in a transition in my career. I had, again, you guys are going to learn a lot from me. I had 2 hip replacements, believe it or not, and a brand new baby. And I went to go find a job in financial services in 2008. So everybody knows what happened then, and there were no jobs in financial services. We'll keep it on the positive side. So I end up landing in senior care, which was amazing. It was a space I feel I should have been there in the first place. I absolutely love it.
And what were you doing in senior care at the time?
I actually started with a well-known placement agency. It's a nationwide agency that's across the United States. And working with them, I learned a lot about what senior care is and what senior care is not.
So give us a quick education. I mean, I think there's probably a wide spectrum of things that fall under senior care. But when we're talking, let's narrow it down just a little bit and get into senior placement or care placement. What exactly is that?
So, my best way to describe it is now somebody's either aging in place or they're at the hospital and they find that they have fallen or have something that got them to the hospital. And now they're looking to go home. And it's either home care, companion care in the home, skilled care in the home, or maybe we continue rehab in an assisted living building.
And then do you also help those seniors who are aging to the point where maybe they aren't injured, they didn't land in the hospital, but it's time to stop living on their own and go into an assisted care facility so that they can be safe as they, as we all get older, it's not always the best idea to be navigating stairs and things like that ourselves. So I imagine that there's a component of that as well.
Yes, oftentimes the senior doesn't even realize they need help too, and that's the hard emotional component. And the family members sometimes have a difficult time recognizing it. I actually had that with my own father, where I had a difficulty time recognizing it when he needed it.
Yeah, that was us too. I mean, my grandmother, and when I was 16 years old, my family built an apartment in my grandmother's house that my grandmother then moved into. And then my parents and my siblings and I, there were three of us, we all moved in to the upstairs in my grandmother's home. And at the time, my grandma, she was like the most active of all of her friends. They went to bingo multiple times a week and she drove them all everywhere. She'd go around house to house picking them up in her car. So at the time when we consolidated homes, she didn't need our help on the day to day, but my parents found themselves kind of caring for two households, right? They were mowing two lawns, they were cleaning two houses, and they ultimately just realized, hey, it'd be a lot easier if we could consolidate this. So when I was 16, and we were very close to my maternal grandmother, and then as she got older and was living in the apartment, she definitely did not want to go anywhere. She wanted to stay in her home. And my mom struggled so much with that as things got to a point because we actually like had a little mini fridge next to her chair, alarms that were supposed to tell her throughout the day when to take her medication. And mom would get home and find out that medication had been missed. And maybe her sandwich that was in the fridge didn't get eaten because she was becoming forgetful and stuff like that. And I know that this can be one of the most difficult decisions that a family member has to make in those situations. Is what are you seeing as far as the types of calls you're getting? Like, when are you receiving a call from people for your services, and what kind of emotional state, I guess, are you navigating as part of the service that you provide?
Well, first of all, I have found that the majority of my families that I'm navigating are in a stressful emotional state. A lot of them are trying to balance their current family situation, like you said, with the two households, with the trying to take care of their mom. Maybe they made a promise that they would not be putting mom in one of those places. But what you find out, you have to look at the family as a whole picture instead of just one person. So what may be better for the whole family to have caregiving in any kind of style which is beneficial for the family so they can become the son, the daughter, the grandchild again. and then they just focus on that relationship instead of the care. And that's where I come in because we talk through the different questions that a family may have. And I change it from an emotional situation to a more factual situation and how they weigh the facts that is most particular to their situation.
I think that's such a good point. In fact, we talk about this even in business a lot of times. Sometimes it's very difficult to balance the emotional reaction to a challenge with a logical assessment of how to handle that challenge in business. And I imagine that's much the case with these families who are coming to you, where they've been looking at this through the emotional lens and maybe a little bit blind to the logical reality of the safety concerns, the care that's not happening because they're not equipped to be caregivers, or they're not home throughout the entire day like my mom was, right? Trying to plan for the day, but then not there when things needed to be administered. So when you're having that type of consultation, is that, I guess sometimes maybe it's happening in the hospital and then other times in the home?
Yes, I always say if we don't fail to plan, then we may fail. But with Albie there, you don't necessarily have to fail because I've gotten the phone call when somebody's in the hospital and I've gotten the person in front of a couple different options and they were able to discharge to the perfect family option that night. So what I have been able to do is if the family needs to, I've been able to condense a whole 3 months, 6 months worth of research into several hours. So I have been able to do that because I listen to what the families are looking for, and then I look at the portfolio across the DMV. It's specified in the location they would like to have it in, and then I'm able to put them in front of a couple different options for that. So it's been amazing.
Well, yeah, I mean, gosh, I didn't even realize that. So that, wow, I kind of feel like I could empathize with the amount of stress that that would alleviate from a family who's facing that decision, because I do think there's a fear in that situation when your loved one needs a bed that night because they're going to get discharged, that you're just going to have to take whatever's available. And of course, we have so many fears from things that we hear in the news, right? About different facilities. Nobody just wants to take a default what's available. We want to know that our loved ones are going to be safe. They're going to be cared for. They're going to be treated as a loving member of the family of whatever facility they're in, as an extension of you as a loving member of their family. So that's amazing. Now, I'm guessing that the reason that you have the ability to give more than one option isn't just because of a portfolio, it's because of the relationships that you've built with these different facilities.
You're correct in that. What's really nice about what I do is because I do love on everybody. I love on the people that I serve. I love on the people that I'm partnered with. So a lot of my facilities are only a text away, where the average person will have to make that phone call. They have to set up a tour. They've got to go through the motions. Oh, I'm busy. I can just send a quick text to any one of the people in my portfolio, and they're going to respond very quickly. So to be able to have and build that relationship with the people that I work with is very powerful, which on the flip side, I understand what individual they're looking to take care of. Because each one of the communities on the surface, they all look the same. One of the things I definitely want you to get out of this podcast is you always have options. Because sometimes things are done in a certain way where it's presented that you may feel you don't have options. I will tell you right now, I know that you always have options.
That's really interesting. I think there maybe are some obvious specialties or services that you might look for. Maybe there's an Alzheimer's ward at one facility but not another, right? So I think as a layperson, we might have an understanding that there might be a few things like that, but it sounds like what you're saying is they have a lot of different specialties and maybe even different personalities that could fit best with your needs and your wants and your family's desires.
Yes, and it takes a special person to understand to get down to that level of specificity. But what happens is, I'll give you an example. I spoke to a husband and wife, and maybe the wife has a lot of dementia or cognitive impairment, and the husband is very active and he's driving, and they want to be in the same community. So that couple can tour one community, and they can say, okay, husband and wife, you have to live in the memory care of my community. They can tour the community and they say, okay, I need to split the husband and wife up. Wife needs to be in memory care, the husband needs to be in assisted living. They tour a third community. They both can function in the assisted living. And one more, they tour a fourth community, which is a small home style, and they can take the master bedroom in that fourth community and live in a small home just like they are. These small homes, most of the time, people don't even know what they are and how to pick them, because the small homes are caregivers. They're not business owners, they're caregivers who open a business. So they work with placement agencies to find the families. But oftentimes, the small homes are amazing because the caregiver ratio is so much higher in them.
Oh my gosh, I would have never known that. I just learned that here right now. What an amazing service, particularly in that scenario you just talked about. I mean, it makes you think of The Notebook. That's what I thought of when you said it. I'm sure a lot of people do, right? Where she's living in a home and is suffering from dementia or Alzheimer's, and he's not actually living in the home as well. I think we find that out at the end, but it's unclear. It doesn't seem like in that movie that they are actually even staying in the same room, and how sad, how terribly sad. That's such a gift that you were able to give to that couple.
Yeah, it's kind of interesting because in the future, I think our industry will catch up to that. But right now, if somebody walks into a community and the community says the couples have to stay like this, no matter what the scenario is, the family automatically assumes that the couples have to stay like that. Um, I was talking to a family today, and they have their mind set on, I'm in waitlisted in three different communities, and it's a husband and wife, right? And I said, have you gone to the community and asked them if they're going to be able to stay in that same room, they're going to stay in assisted living, or they're going to have to. So there's so different scenarios where you could just go into a community and I would know the answer to that scenario before you get there. So you tell me you want your mom and dad to stay together, I'm putting you in front of communities that will allow mom and dad to stay together.
Oh my gosh. This is one of those things that I just think people are ignorant to the fact that these types of services are out there, because when do we deal with this? We deal with it once in our lives when it's time for our parents to take this journey. And so maybe twice if for some reason one's going in before the other, but until you get to this point in your life, if you haven't dealt with this or had any reason to look into these things, then you don't know what you don't know. And what just struck me as you were talking, Casey, is that when we buy a new house, I mean, the majority of people use a real estate agent for that, who understands the area, the neighborhoods, the schools, like where you might be able to find an off market gem, right? But then in a situation like this, I think so many people are blind to the surface that they end up going it alone.
Yeah, and needless to say, a lot of them are just relieved so they can, and they think they have their parents in the best place, but they don't know what they don't know. They don't know what's out there. Okay, I had this fixed, and then emergency hits because they go into a community that's not appropriate for level of care, as they say. That community gives you a 30-day notice, and they're like, "Okay, I'm really sorry. We're going to have to discharge you. It's not the level of care, we're going to discharge you to a nursing home." And come to find out, there's assisted livings or small homes right down the street that could take care of your loved one, but your loved one is automatically going to a nursing home because of the relationship the assisted living in this nursing home has. So these are quirks of the industry that people just don't even realize that, again, in the beginning, that you always have options. If you really want that home style, home like community, when you deal with the correct placement agent, you will be able to find that within their area radius.
Now, what about people who like you said, sometimes this is an emergency, right? Sometimes you're not planning on putting mom and dad anywhere, but there's a fall, goes into the hospital, and now they have to go somewhere. And, so maybe people aren't prepared for the large expense that they assume comes with hiring someone like you to help them find the right placement. Are there any What should people in that situation do?
Well, thank you for asking. When I came into this I'll Be There franchise, there was two ways that I could have decided to go within the franchise. There is a school of thought where as a geriatric care manager, currently right now it's 150 to $250 an hour charged to the client, and maybe 1,500 to $2,500 for your care plan. Now they do have a specialty service where they do focus a lot on the care, but some of them do work in placements. So they're happy to charge you the 150 to $250 an hour to help place your loved one. Where senior placement, the reason why I chose a franchise, because I have done this now 3 times. I did that which was my starting of my career. So I learned about senior placement with that large company. And then I moved into the industry. I decided to do this on my own for senior placement. So I ran a senior placement agency without being part of a franchise. The difference between being part of a franchise and not having a franchise is the franchise was able to allow me to give more options. The more established franchises have regional contracts with some of the large name assisted living, and those large name assisted livings don't necessarily make contracts with the small one person by your local senior placement. And then I am free of charge because of those contracts that we've signed with all the different assisted living buildings.
Okay, so just to recap, because I don't want anybody to lose this.
Yeah.
If you're in this, like, terrible moment in your life where your loved one unexpectedly, or maybe you've been seeing it coming and you've been putting it off, now has to live outside their home. I've never met a senior who raised their hand and said, "Yes, please take me out of my home." Most people wanna stay in it, right? So it's a stressful situation. There's a lot of guilt for the kids who are the ones that are making these decisions a lot of the time, and there's fear around financial expense. But what you're saying is they could work with you free of charge. You're going to take all this heavy lifting off their plate, present them with options that are matched to their desires and their loved ones' needs, and give them a connection to the relationship to be able to go in and pull the trigger on becoming a resident there.
Definitely. I mean, you really said it in a nutshell. Free of charge, which is exciting.
That is exciting. But I think we do a lot of times assume things are gonna cost a certain amount, and that makes people afraid to ask some questions. But it also does make sense with that real estate analogy. I mean, we don't pay real estate agents on the front end, right? They get paid on the contract on the back end. And so this is a fantastic service. Now you mentioned why you started to go with a franchise, and I'd love to get into that a little bit, especially because you were doing senior placement on your own, and it sounds like part of this was the contracts that you received. But what made you choose I Will Be There specifically as a franchise?
Well, I found David and Laura to be people of integrity since the beginning. I was in the industry when I bought the franchise, so I was working alongside David, and David always did the right thing. So when mom passed, she had Alzheimer's and Lewy body dementia. I had come into an inheritance. And one of the things that my mother specifically instilled in me is always doing the right thing and helping others. So it was a natural thing for me to spend my inheritance to buy a franchise, doing something that I love, but also having the support of David and Laura, who are the owners of the I'll Be There franchise, and they're amazing.
Well, I do know that I'll Be There has a training program for new franchisees that involves at least 90 hours of training and education, which I have to say, I work with a lot of franchises. And I think that is the highest number of hours in an initial training program of any franchise that I've worked with. And I know that they've put that together because they truly want to set people up for success. Did that factor into your decision?
It does. I love the fact that he does have the 90 hours worth of training. What I see with the LBD franchise, which is, I want to say, it's an added bonus, for lack of a better word. All of the franchisees that I work alongside, we actually want to work together to help each other grow. So we do have conversations once a week to talk to one another, saying, this doesn't work. Let me try this. We have this difficult case. Let's see what we can do to move it forward together to help this family. I love the not only the Dave and Laura part of it, but I love the teamwork that we're seeing and building within the whole franchise brand and model. It's amazing.
That is amazing. I'm so glad to hear that. We work with several of the Albi, their franchisees inside Secret Sauce, as you know, and we've witnessed the same thing. I mean, but it's really not surprising that this brand in particular pulls people together with big hearts that show up in integrity and have a real true servant leadership approach to business ownership. So, what are some of the challenges, or what's one big challenge you found in running a franchise? And is that challenge related to business ownership in general, or is it can be a challenge that's related to the field that you work in?
Well, I will tell you that I don't consider it a challenge because I have this personality where things are put in front of me and I'm just going to do it anyway. But some people may look at it like a challenge. Full disclosure, I'm coming on my fifth year. I am a single mom. And so I have been doing this by myself, but not really, because without that franchisee support or franchisor support, it's just been amazing for me, because a lot of times people have a husband and wife and you go home to your husband and you can bounce ideas or whatever. I don't have that. So to have that support of Dave and Laura and just to be able, and that's something else that's very different. I can call up David and he answers the phone all the time. I don't know how he has time to do it, but I'll call him up and I ask him a question and he's always answering the phone for me. And you just don't see that. And I just
No.
think it's amazing.
Yeah, that is amazing. All right. So what if you and I know your heart. I know you're always wanting to give back in a lot of different ways. Yes, through senior placement to the families, but also, I know you give back a lot to your fellow franchisees and try to pass it on. So that's who our listeners are right now. They're franchisees of all kinds of different brands. If you had one piece of advice for the audience and how they could move their business forward today, or maybe something that you learned that you want to pass on to them and save them some trial and error, and I'm putting, just so everyone knows, I'm putting her on the spot. I did not ask her to prepare an answer to this question. So I'm stalling for a moment to give her an answer, give her a little bit of time to think. But Casey, what is it that you might want to tell people listening?
April, I will say that your brand, your system, your program has helped me, but hopefully you're not surprised in how it's helped me. I had to learn me first before I could be good for anybody else. And so going through your program, I helped me understand my strengths and my weaknesses. And in hiring to my weakness, it's like it opened up a whole new level for me. But you even helped me through that mentorship program and hiring to my weaknesses. And I didn't even think you were showing me my weaknesses. If that makes sense. Like, this is the program. And then understanding it all is what brought my business forward. But I had to understand that in order to move my business forward. If not, I just would have been stagnant. So I would say the number one reason why I'm successful, believe it or not, is going through your program and doing all the work you asked me to do through your program.
Well, I appreciate you saying that. But the truth is, all I can do is show people the path. You are 100% the person who took action. You have been self-aware and open to changing your perspective, which quite frankly is the hardest part, So many of us are so stuck in our ways of thinking, but then our nervous system is also telling us that if we do change, what if it doesn't work out? And that fear of what if it gets worse holds more people back because we always are aware of what could happen that's bad. That's what keeps us alive. That's our survival instinct. So we're thinking, well, what if it doesn't work out instead of what if it does? And I think that that's what sets you apart, Casey, is I think that you are predisposed to be a what if this works out? I believe this will work out. I can apply myself to make it work out. And that all comes down to you. Just even your answer in the self-awareness is that you had to start on yourself first. I mean, we talk about that all the time, which you know, and which is why we have an entire component in the program devoted to just mindset, like true deep mindset work that coincides with the business intelligence. But I honestly, I mean, just so everyone listening, that was not a plug. I didn't ask her to say that. Well, you've
And
done,
I will say one more thing just so you know, and you brought this out in me and thinking. It's something that people have been asking me recently, like, how have you changed? What has it done? I had to understand in order to move my business ahead, I had to, and I don't want to call it a gamble because, gamble's a bad word, but you gave me the solid concrete foundation to make that leap of faith, and I had to make the leap of faith to move my business forward. If I always stayed in a conservative bubble, then my business wouldn't be here today. But because you gave me that solid foundation, and then my job was just jump when you say jump, and that's the combination.
yeah, it is. It's a good combination. Well, like I said, you put in the work. You are a poster child for following the blueprint, right? Trusting the process and sticking to it and being consistent. And that's what we're always preaching, right? You got to trust the process and then be consistent and frequent in your application of what you've learned. And that's what you do, Casey. Now, in that DC area, I'm sure that you are not the only senior placement services option out there for facilities to work with or for families to work with. So, what do you find has leveled you up to be the authority in your space, in your territory?
Previously to where I am now, I would just share it's all the educations and all the initials after my name. Now that I'm here, I realize it's the amount of time that I think about the person that's sitting across from me. Because when I go into a room, when I'm in front of the family, when I'm in front of what we call our referral sources, I'm not thinking about me. I'm not thinking, give me a lead. I'm not thinking, with the family, let me go ahead and just, make a placement. I'm thinking that how can I help this person in front of me now? What can I do today to help that person? And that's what's launched me to success because yes, we have our everyday things that are probably going to be there, but that's not what I'll be there for me is about. I'll be there is there so we could be your, for lack of a better word, I'm missing the word, but we're gonna be that person that catches you when you are struggling with something, and that's with anything from my referral sources to my families. I catch you, and let's go ahead and find the solution together. And it's been very powerful. I don't think about the next placement I have. I don't think about how I'm going to build this placement. I think about the next family I'm going to help and how can I get them so they can have a quality end of life?
Oh, I love that. A quality end of life. It's so beautiful, Casey, with the way that you approach your business. I mean, your heart, they say the heart is on the sleeve, right? I don't think your heart's on your sleeve. I think your heart is 3 steps ahead of you. It's just leading. People feel it before they ever hear the first word out of your mouth. It's truly a beautiful, beautiful thing. Oh, that begs the question, what's next? What's your next big goal or the next thing on the horizon for you that you have your eye on that you're going to tackle in your business, in your personal life?
I'll tell you, it's very interesting. Back when I was a little girl, You're gonna laugh at this, but I see it. I was a little girl and I was working with the MLM businesses that I was at, and my dad did pretty well in it as well. And believe it or not, a little known fact is my aunt Sylvia is a movie star, if they even say that back then. Yeah, she was Apollo's wife in the Rocky movies. So, and my cousin Shelly, she's a writer right now. She last produced and producer. She last produced Shadow and Bone.
Really?
Yes, the Netflix series. So I
Yes.
do have, a type of stardom quality. I'm not looking for stardom. I'm just looking to help more people than who I'm helping now. So I can see myself working in an outside platform in some way, helping others, bring them, like right now, I'm doing senior transitions. I see I can help others with other transitions, no matter it may be. Like, because personally, I've had so many multitude of transitions in my life, and you don't realize how strong you are until you realize how strong you are. And so it's just kind of like this, okay, this didn't work, let me try this. This didn't work, let me try this. And so I have multitude of times in my life, including this business, where I just, I pivot, and I just always, I don't stop. But a lot of people, they need to be taught how to do that or what that looks like. So that's my thought process, is like, I really would like to help people transition to what they feel is their best life.
I love it. I love it. Well, you're 100% capable of it. Uh, and I think you do have a star quality. Like, for sure. You shine, woman. I love it. All right. Well, for the people who are listening who would like to learn more about the services you provide, or maybe even more about I'll Be There as a franchise, if they wanted to give you a little shout out and ask some questions, how do they find you?
I'm on the I'll Be There website, which we may be revamping, so it may be different. So I will make sure I give you phone numbers as well. But it's www.illbethere, Frederick and Loudon. But what you have to do, you have to go to the main page, and then you go to a contact us page, and then you click on Frederick. So there's three different steps to get there right now. But like I said, we may be having it a lot easier to get to me. And then my phone number, my direct line is 240-623-7632. And then the email address is Casey Ryerson at OWLBETHERE.com, I'llbethere.com. So Casey Ryerson at I'llbethere.com.
Awesome. Well, we'll make sure to put that in the show notes. So if you find yourself in the DMV area and needing, you may need placement. You might also need a speaker to come and speak to a group about this transition, this life transition that not only our seniors face, but the kids that are now adults, those adult children are facing with their parents. Casey would be an excellent resource to come and teach and serve your business, your employees, to help them understand how to navigate this when the time is right. So, thank you so much for being on our show today, Casey.
Well, thank you for inviting me. This has been a pleasure.
Thanks for tuning in to the Ask April Porter podcast. If you found value in today's episode, subscribe, leave a review, and share it with your fellow franchisees and small business owners. To access the resources I mentioned during this episode, check out our show notes.